Hi everyone, welcome to Everyday, your daily stop for virtual reality content. My name is Dee, and today we are checking out NeoS, the universe on the Oculus Rift Development Kit 2. Now, NeoS the Universe also has a Gear VR version. It was originally created for the Oculus Mobile VR Jam, where it is currently one of the finalists, and I think it's well deserving of that because it is definitely one of the coolest apps I've seen so far. It's created by Frooxius, the same developer as SightLine and SightLine the Chair, which you can check out my previous videos of right here. And SightLine was kind of a exploration slash experience adventure game where you, which had this unique new mechanic where as you look away and then you look at a scene again, things change while you were looking away. And SightLine the Chair took that same mechanic and used it as an introductory experience for the Oculus Rift DK2. It was very popular for that. Very, very pretty demo. And this demo is based on a different concept. It's based on the idea of kind of taking one of those videos or one of those animations that shows you a bunch of different scales of objects in the world and showing you very small things, showing you very big things, showing you how they all relate. Like the classic Powers of 10 video, if you saw that in your science class. It's very similar to that, and except that we're taking advantage of all of the highly effective sense of scale that's provided by the VR headset, all the stereoscopic cues, all of the parallax and the monoscopic cues to provide this highly effective sense of accurate scale and to give you a really true understanding of the relative scale of a lot of real-world objects in the universe, as well as the entire universe. So that's why it's called the universe. And it's the name NeoS is actually coming from this is connected to Frooxius is also working on a platform where people will be able to interact in VR and build things inside VR, and it's going to be used for educational purposes and other purposes, and that's NeoS, and that's still a work in progress. So this is kind of an early work that's going to be embedded in that universe, which is why NeoS is in the name. Anyway. So Frooxius, aka Tomáš Mariánček, is based out of the Czech Republic, where he did this work in conjunction with a small startup there called SolarX, who he is the primary developer of. And he did this work while at part of the River Accelerator program here in the Bay Area in San Francisco. Anyway, without further ado, I am going to jump into NeoS the Universe and check out the relative scale of some objects. Let's go. Alright, here we are in NeoS the Universe. This has two modes. You can select your units, metric or imperial. I'm going to stick with metric because even if you are American, you've probably learned symmetric length units in your science classes. And it has two modes: narrative experience, where it gives you a voiceover as it goes through all the different scales, and it has a freeform mode where you can explore the scales on your own. I think the freeform mode's actually more fun, but the narrative experience is a great way to start out, just to get that guided tour. So I'm going to do that first. It automatically switches to freeform mode when it's done. You are recommended to have headphones because there are some very nice audio cues in this. In general, this is like Frooxius' style, like lots of cool shaders and glowing, lots of cool colors going on, really pretty environments. There are the credits over there, created by Frooxius, narrated by Sean Rhodes, who I believe this is her first time narrating anything, but she does a really great job of it. And some assistance from various other people for small bits of it. He also gives a special thanks to Dr. Peter Klan, who I believe is one of his favorite teachers, who was really inspiring to him. So, and I know all this because I'm working with Frooxius myself on some light field related work, which I will tell you more about later. For now, let's go ahead and jump into the narrative experience. I keep wanting to press on the side like I'm wearing Gear VR, but this is mouse-based. Gotta use my mouse. Alright, let's go.
Welcome to NeoS the Universe.
Loading the universe.
The universe is big. Really big. You just won't believe how vastly, hugely, mind-bogglingly big it is. But we're going to show you anyway, and you know why? Because there's something even greater than the sum of all the matter, energy, and space in existence. human curiosity. Our desire to learn has brought us wealth of knowledge about the world we live in, and has drove us to study it in even greater details for millennia. Thanks to the works of the great thinkers of the past and present, you can now sit back comfortably and enjoy the marvelous journey that's about to begin. All complex things start simple, and that's where we start. The closer we looked while studying the nature of reality, the simpler but also stranger things became. We realized that virtually everything around us is a result of interactions of 12 fundamental particles of matter and 4 basic forces. In isolation, we saw only a handful of variations of these basic building blocks. But once they were put together and allowed to influence each other, complex behaviors emerged.
These are enormous. Look, the sulfur
Elementary
atom.
building blocks of reality locked in together to make essential components of life. Over billions of years, the matter organized itself into complex interacting units, yet still so tiny that our unaided eyes could not see them for millennia. But the fundamental laws of physics kept sculpting and sifting through a plethora of possible combinations, forcing the simplest singular cellular organism to take on paths as diverse as the environment around them. Many of them grew even more complex and specialized, combining themselves into large communities, like a fuzzy bumblebee and the flower it drinks nectar from, or a giant whale swimming in the ocean. And of course us, humans, with our fantasies, imaginations, and creativity.
Human, that's me. And a little mouse and a car. We're at human scale now.
And it doesn't stop there. For thousands of years, people have built vast structures in the name of both science and art as they spread over the land, hot or cold, wet or dry, high up or below the sea, building different countries and rich spectrums of culture. But exploring our home planet wasn't enough. We've already visited our own moon in person and sent numerous probes to explore our solar neighborhood, gathering new insights about all kinds of comets, volcanic and frozen moons, rocky siblings to our Earth, and the ancient gas giants that protect us for millions of years. We got our own first insight into how much bigger the world really is. Our gaze reached even further. It was only 25 years ago when one of our metal ambassadors looked back and saw the pale blue dot where it was sent from. And yet it entered the interstellar medium just years ago, still a long way from reaching even the nearest stars and pulsars, exoplanets and nebulae. But light, the fastest messenger of them all, brought us information about them long ago. For decades we have observed and catalogued billions of other stars within our own galaxy, wondering how many of them might contain life, or perhaps a whole civilization. As our most powerful telescopes reached into the greatest depths of space, we found many more galaxies, some with even greater quantities of stars. From this pale blue microscopic dot, we saw galaxies grouped into clusters, those into superclusters which form galaxy filaments, reflecting the ultimate structure of the observable universe. We might seem tiny and insignificant, but thanks to our imagination in tow with our logical thinking and powers of abstraction, we are capable of grasping the enormous space around us. And with the power of virtual reality, the whole world is in reach of your fingertips. All you need is your own curiosity to reach for it. Get ready to explore the marvels of the world around you. Get ready for NeoS.
Yeah! What's happening? Alright, so that was the narrated mode, and I think it was very well done. It gave this atmosphere of wonder and grandiosity. I really like the narrator they got, and it. Some people will complain that it kind of rushes you through it really quickly, Well, I feel like it kind of has to for it to be a reasonably short demo and to get through all these different levels of scale, because there's so many levels of scale in this app. So here we're at the human level of scale. Everything right now is pretty much one-to-one real life. Like that Galaxy Note 4 right there looks the size of my actual Galaxy Note 4. And what are you? I don't recognize you. So this is the DK2 version. And oh, hey there, T-Rex. You're pretty big. Anyway, so I like this DK2 version actually more than the Gear VR version, even though it was originally created for Gear VR, because I just love being able to lean forward and look really closely at the smallest objects in the scene, like that coin and that matchstick. And it gives you a very strong sense of just how much smaller they are. Like this matchstick, way smaller than that dinosaur. Way smaller. I know that sounds obvious, but like to see it and to have that visceral sense gives you a much clearer sense of relative scale than I mean, I can never actually be in the presence of a dinosaur. But I can clearly see the relative scale of the dinosaur to all of these objects around me right now, which gives me an idea of just how big it is and how much trouble it would have if it wanted to eat me. Anyway, so there's a dolphin, there's a train. Let's go ahead and scroll our scroll wheel, and we can explore some more. So as you start to scroll, this penny becomes enormous. And there's a grain of rice. And what are you? You're a grain of salt. A single grain of salt. And there's a human blood cell relative to a grain of salt. That little red dot. Here's a tardigrade. Tardigrades are actually really cool. I didn't know about them before I saw them in this app, and I just had to look them up. Because, I mean, look at that thing. It looks like it's some kind of... I mean, it is. It's an animal. It's a micro-animal. You can see how small it is compared to, like, a grain of sand. It's like 3 grains of sand in size. It, like, on a millimeter, it's like 0.2 millimeters. It's itsy-bitsy. Like, even the dust mite is, like, about the same size as the tardigrade. And it's an insect. It's a tiny insect. You are a tiny animal. They call them water bears, also. And they have their little claws. Anyway... There's the largest bacteria. I find it kind of bizarre that the smallest animals are that much smaller than the largest bacteria in the world. There's a paramecium. This is one of my favorite scales to be at. Just a bit smaller than in the real human scale, but so you can still see like a coffee bean. You know, you've seen coffee beans in real life. Well, on this scale, that's a coffee bean over there in the distance. It's like the size of a small building. And you can see all these smaller things now much more clearly. There's a human blood cell. Well, you're a human regular cell. Whatever, it's a human cell. There's a giant coin. Let's go ahead and go... And there's a micro SD card. That's also enormous at this scale. And a human hair. Alright, let's scroll down some more. So at this scale, you can start to see all the organelles inside the cells. You can see... There's Salmonella. You're a tiny bacterium. And you can start to see the actual wavelengths of light. So there's like purple wavelength. So this gives you an idea of why it's so hard to look at things this small with optical equipment, because you start to approach the wavelength of visible light, which is why when you get much smaller than this, you have to start breaking out your electron microscopes if you want to examine things. It's a bacteriophage. Bacteriophages are so weird looking. CPU transistor gate. Your CPU is made out of these. Lots and lots of them, as you can see. Transistor gates are also on the same scale as the wavelength of visible light. And small bacteria. I feel like that gate and that bacteria are about the same size actually. They could make friends. Interestingly, so I wanna point out this ribosome here. For a technical reason. This ribosome is actually represented using light fields. And that was done because it has such immense geometric complexity. You can't really represent all of that complexity on a mobile platform using polygons. So he actually pre-rendered it in a 3D modeling package as a light field, and then used the light field to render it in real time. And so you can see all of that complexity, and you can adjust your perspective and be able to see it from multiple angles and so on, and it just works. So that's really cool. And here we are with the viruses. Now the mitochondria's becoming enormous. And the chromosome and the red blood cell is like the size of a mountain. And we're getting, here's DNA. DNA is small. DNA is really small. Like, there's a bacterium, and this is DNA. Like, even viruses are vastly larger than DNA. DNA is little. This is what I learned just now. There are some, like the wavelength of UV light is vastly larger than DNA. That's how small DNA is. I did not understand how small DNA is. Alright, let's keep going. Alpha helix. I don't even know what that is. I will have to look that up. Water molecule. Now we're getting super tiny. Water molecules are so little. They are one of the simplest molecules, one of the smallest molecules, except maybe for diatomic hydrogen. There comes some glucose. Hey, water molecule. There's a hydrogen atom. Imagine 2 of those, you'll have your diatomic hydrogen. So it's quite small. Water's relatively larger. Hydrogen atom, becoming quite large now, like the size of a basketball. There's a sulfur atom. There's an X-ray. It has a much smaller wavelength. Here's a gamma ray. It has the smallest wavelength of all. Its wavelength is quite a bit smaller than hydrogen atom. And we're going to keep going down. We're down to a picometer. So I haven't pointed this out before, but when you zoom up and down, the grid below you actually becomes larger and smaller. And this is a big part of what provides the sense of scale when you move up and down. As well as there's little vertical lines descending from each object. So like you can see the purple line coming out of the bottom of the gamma ray going down to the ground. And that's really important because it tells you what piece of ground it's over, which allows you to figure out how far away it is, which allows you to figure out how big it is. I've seen some other games do things like this. For example, StarCraft 2, if you're flying a ship, it has the little line that comes down to the ground to show you what piece of land the ship is flying over. So those guides are really helpful, and they help enhance the sense of scale. In general, I think this particular demo does a better job of creating an effective and very strong sense of scale for every object than any other demo I've seen. It's really kind of breaking out the whole list of stereoscopic and monoscopic cues and using them all. It puts small objects close to you so that you can use your stereoscopic cues and your stereoscopic vision to discern just how tiny they are. The larger objects are placed far away, and you can take advantage of their position and their position relative to the horizon to tell how big they are. You can take advantage of their relative size to figure out how big they are if there's any familiar objects in the scene. That's especially handy when you get up to the human scale. So when you're up to the human scale, let's get up there. Yeah, so here we're closer to human scale. Here, like, you can compare, like, the dinosaur to the basketball, and you know how big a basketball is in real life. So that's really a very effective sense of scale cue, although that's not going to work at the scale of like microscopic scale or universe scale. But when you're near human scale, it provides a pretty effective comparative sense of relative scale. And there are a bunch of other things. Parallax, of course. Notice everything is moving all the time, all of it. And that's actually really important because that's what provides the sense of parallax. That is another really important sense of scale. As they move past, you get a strong sense, both based on their occlusion as they pass in front of other objects, as well as just how quickly they move compared to their distance away from you. And everything's kind of moving at this constant predictable rate, and that gives you this very strong cue for how big it is. So, as well as just the parallax when you move your head around. When you turn your head, it's rotating around the base of your neck. When I lean forward and lean back, when I lean to the side, that parallax is enhancing the sense of scale further. So it's really breaking out pretty much every possible depth cue and sense of scale cue that it could to provide this powerful sense of scale that goes beyond what any video possibly ever could, to let you really get this memorable and visceral sense of how big one thing is compared to another thing. And this is something VR is very good at in general, is the relative sense of scale. And so any demos that take advantage of it, for example, Titans of Space did that very well. And this demo does as well. It takes advantage of a lot of those same benefits that VR provides for effective sense of scale. You're loud for such a tiny dinosaur. Oh, and that whale's making sounds too. Giant squid, very large. There's the Eiffel Tower. Mount Everest. All of Paris. Paris is actually pretty big. It's a big city. I do not fully appreciate how large it is. I believe this is a historical map. These are actually quite high-resolution textures. You can lean in and see lots of details. There is the Large Hadron Collider. It's actually quite large. They have to accelerate those particles over a very long distance in order to get the results that they need, which is what makes it so ridiculously expensive. It's actually like on the same scale, roughly, as Mount Everest. That's how big it is. Or all of Paris. It's big. Alright, so there's Phobos. Phobos, I feel like, shouldn't really even count as a moon because it's like so tiny. I mean, I know it circles around Mars, but it's like it's not even large enough to achieve a round shape. What kind of moon is that? Not my favorite kind of moon. I like our moon. Our moon... Wait, where'd our moon go? Moon, there you are. Yeah, we got a nice moon. We got a nice round moon, a nice big moon. I like our moon. Our moon's better. There's Pluto. Pluto's just slightly larger than our moon. Pluto's not a planet anymore. It's a dwarf planet. Along with all of our other friends out there at the edge of the solar system. There's all fresh water on Earth. There's the Czech Republic, where the developer is from, which was included also because it is a nice kind of small to medium-sized country compared to like the UK, the USA. USA is surprisingly large. Like, USA on Venus would cover like quite a bit of the surface. There's planet Earth, of course. I like how you can see the atmosphere moving over the surface of the planet with some parallax there. Helps give it a little bit of depth. I don't think that's actually to scale, but that's okay. Here's Mercury, Mars, Neptune, all the planets of the solar system. Where's the sun? There's the sun. So the sun is very large. You can see how it compares to Saturn here. But this is, you can actually get a pretty good sense of the relative scale. Like, because Jupiter is right up here close to my face and the sun's a little bit farther away, I can fit them both in my field of view at the same time. And I can make a good comparison between their relative sizes. So I mean, like if the sun was like, you know, a ball, I feel like the sun is a ball about like as tall as I am, or maybe like a foot shorter. And Saturn here is like the size of like a coconut, or a small coconut. So that's kind of the relative scale we're talking about. So I mean, they're both like you could see them both at the same time. Saturn and Jupiter are not minuscule compared to the sun. Earth, on the other hand, where is Earth? I don't even see it. Where is Earth? Well, there's the USA. There's Earth. There you are. I almost lost you. You're so little. I feel like Earth here is like the size of... I don't even know. It's like... It's not the size of a BB. It's not quite that small. But it's smaller than a ping pong ball. It's, like, I don't know, like a centimeter in diameter. It's pretty small. Alright, let's keep going. Alright, so where'd our sun go? There's our sun. Hey, sun. It turns out the sun is quite a bit smaller than a lot of other stars. Here's Rigel, Arcturus, Antares. Is Vicanus Majoris? There's Vicanus Majoris. You're a big star. Super big. Now Vicanus Majoris is shrinking down. There is the entire solar system. I am glad Vicanus Majoris is not hanging out in the middle of our solar system because it would devour the inner planets and destroy all life. So let's plan to not do that. And now we're getting out to the nebulas. So there's our tiny solar system. Here's the nebula, Ring Nebula. That's one of the smaller nebulas, 1.3 light years across. Butterfly Nebula. Frooxius added some stereoscopic depth and shape to some of these nebulas. I believe that is just for prettiness. I don't believe it corresponds to their actual shape in space. but it's still, it makes the experience a little bit nicer. Here comes some more nebulas. The Tarantula Nebula, 300 light years across. At this point, the Crab Nebula has become super tiny. There's an exometer, 100 light years roughly. Small Magellanic Cloud. The Milky Way. Milky Way, that's our galaxy. Milky Way is actually a pretty big galaxy. Like, Andromeda is a big galaxy, but we're comparable. We're up there. We're bigger than all these other little nebulas, like the Crab Nebula, which is super tiny compared to the Milky Way. We're bigger than this Magellanic Cloud. We're bigger than the Sombrero Galaxy. A Yodometer. Once we get up to the Yodometer, suddenly we are looking at a galaxy filament. Now, this is not any actual, like, real galaxy filament in the universe. It's just kind of an example of an average-sized galaxy filament. They're big. They're very, very big. This is 261 million light years across, and it's made of galaxies. So that's a very, very large object. Just a few yodometers across, no big deal. And then finally, we get out to the entire observable universe, which is roughly 93 billion light years across. There it is. One little sphere containing everything. So this is NeoS the universe. And like, I feel like I could just scroll up and down in here for hours, looking at how big all these relative sizes are, looking at this Crab Nebula compared to a light year, and all the human scale things, and as you start to transition into the planet scale, how things are at the same, are kind of on the same scale. Like, there's like the USA compared to the moon. And the moon is just like, could drop on the USA, and like California would, well, it would all be destroyed. But the point is, we could kind of sit the moon in the middle, and it would just kind of crush some of the states in the middle, but the coast would be okay. Anyway, and it's just, it's cool to move between all of these scales so smoothly, and to get this really clear sense of, and to really, all of these, oh, it's a container ship. Oh yes, I love container ships, and I love shipping containers, and I love harbor cranes. This is really cool. Look how big it is. If that container ship was like it's as long as the Eiffel Tower is tall. That's how big it is. Container ships are enormous. All right. Anyway, no, what's that? Hold on, is that a train? It's a train. Trains are quite a bit smaller than container ships. Oh, there's a dolphin. You don't normally see dolphins and trains together. Anyway, so I mean, this is what I like so much about this is there's all these things that you kind of don't normally see juxtaposed. You can assess their relative scale very effectively using all of these different cues that are just not available from a video or anything like that. You can explore it at your own pace, and it just provides this sense of wonder, this sense of the vast complexity of the universe, and it's an amazing demo, and I think everybody should try this demo at least once, because there's so much to explore, so many things to discover. Hey T-Rex, are you gonna roar for me? Guess not. And I am a human, and my name is D, and this has been Everyday VR. I will be playing more Wind Waker soon. I will be playing more VR Jam demos. Let me know which ones you want to see. I will provide a link in the description. That is all for today, and everybody have a great every day.